Welcome back to 10 Minutes USA. I'm Chuck. Let's get into this one. Let me think now, in 1986 to 1989, I was a mechanic at the garage, pretty good sized garage, for National Car Rental here in Orlando, Florida, at the airport. That was their main hub. They had a huge lot. All the car companies there, or car rental companies, had their lots there. There was Avis, and then there was Hertz, then there was us, and we had a shop that was 8 bays, 4 and 4, and 2 shifts. So we had 16 mechanics, a couple of parts guys, and I'm trying to think what else. That was about it. Maybe one guy sweeping up, cleaning the shop. But anyway, back in 1987, I believe, maybe the end of 86, no, probably 87, National had this classic car rental program. I don't know who, somebody with the company went around buying classic old cars. They were all convertibles, and they started this program. At the time, they had just gotten the contract to be the official car rental company of Walt Disney World. So, kind of to kick that off, they started this classic car rental program, which was pretty cool. We had, I don't know, a dozen or so cars. I'm trying to think. We had 3 Corvettes, a 1957, a 61, and a 63. The 63 never seen the road. The rear end was shot, and it was over by the long-term breakdown line near the fence, and I never got to it. But anyway, when the program started, the manager come out. He says, I want one guy to volunteer, one mechanic to be, and all you're going to do is you're going to work on these cars and maintain them, and every time one goes out on rent, you're going to go up to the airport, because they would only rent them out of the airport, and you're going to get with the customer to show them, because most people don't know where the gas cap is on a 57 Chevy. And every car had its own little quirks. They were all in pretty good shape. Like I said, we had 3 Corvettes. We had 2 Ford Fairlanes, I think they were beautiful cars, never got rented. We had 2 57 Chevys, a 55 Chevy that was absolutely gorgeous. It looked brand new. I said, man, you're going to rent this? It's going to get tore up. It was like a show car. And we had a 53 Chevy convertible coupe, and we had a 63 T-Bird with the retractable top that went down into the trunk, and then the trunk closed. I was always working on that. And trying to think, we had a couple other cars. Those are the ones I remember. Some of the cars never got rented while the program was running. But anyway, when the senior mechanic, he volunteered, Rich. He said, I want to work on them. Well, after about a month, doing some heavy work on some of these guys, he said, the heck with this. He says, I want to go back to just working on new cars, the rental cars. So I volunteered. I said, hey, I'll do it. I don't mind working on the old cars. I worked on a lot of them. Okay, you're now the guy. And I remember when we got the 57 Chevy come in on the car carrier, and it came across country. It was somebody, they bought it somewhere in Nevada, and it was a pretty sharp looking car. Matter of fact, I got a picture. It's the only picture I have. I thought I had more pictures of all these cars, but I don't. I think my buddy John does. But there's me, what we wore, all greens, at the shop with the 57 Corvette. I think that was taken right after I put a new cam in it. The car, when it came in, we backed it off the car carrier, I said, man, this thing, it had a 283 in it, but it was radical. I mean, it had a heavy cam. It was a 4-speed car. So I took it across the lot, lit up the tires on all 4 gears. I came back, and it was like a race car almost. You had to keep clearing it out. It was loading up. I said, we can't rent this. People won't know how to drive it. I said, yeah, I love it, but... So the manager, he says, well, do whatever you got to do. I said, I got to recam it. I said, I got to put a different cam in. The cam is just too radical in this car. Okay, whatever it takes, do it. So I put I think I put the stock I don't know if it was for that year, but the stock Corvette cam for the 283, either for that year or the following year, 58, I forget. But it still ran good. And here's a crazy story. The car one time went out on rent, and it stayed out for a week, which was unusual for these cars. Here's what would happen. They usually got rented in the summer. It's hot as hell down here and humid. And none of these cars had AC. So here's what would happen 99% of the time. The next day, the customer would call and say, bring me a new Cadillac with air. I can't take this car. It's too hot. And he'd come right back. So, but the Vet, the 57 Vet, one time went out for a week. Some guy ran it, and anytime these cars came back, the mechanic that was in charge, that was me, he just went over the car. And so I'm inside the car, and I find all these pieces of paper down in the console. I'm pulling them out. I said, what the hell? I open them up. They're time slips from the local drag strip over in Bithlo. It's now called Orlando Speed World. And hey, the guy was good, and the car was still quick, even though I recammed it. He was running 13-second quarter miles. And he ran it. I found like 5 slips. So I checked the car real good. It was fine. Clutch wasn't burned up or anything, so the guy knew what he was doing, I guess, that was running it. Probably a drag racer. And I thought that was funny. But yeah, they lost a ton of money on that program. Some of the cars never got rented. The 57 Chevys rented out the most often. The 61 Corvette, which was a beautiful car. Man, it was almost a show car. Beautiful silver color, and it had a 2-speed power glide, and it was automatic. The first red light coming out of the Orlando International Airport, the guy rear ends a guy, and he said the brakes didn't work. Well, I went down we had a full-time tow truck driver and tow truck. I went down, we hooked it up, brought it back, and I checked the brakes were fine. It's just that people, they're used to driving new cars. Old cars, they don't stop like the new cars. Most of them. Some do. But the guy lost that case, and we did get that car fixed. The whole front end was wiped out. He didn't really get hurt. He got bruised up. But he tried to sue the company, and he lost that case because the brakes were fine. There was nothing wrong with them. It was just the driver's fault. But it was a cool program. I enjoyed it. My favorite was the 57 Chevy. That was a cool car. If I ever have the money, I'd buy one. If I found one in decent shape and it wasn't some crazy amount of money. It was a real fun car. I love the early Vets with the straight axle rear end. 63, of course, they went to an independent rear suspension. And that one we had, like I said, it was in pieces when we got it. And we just didn't have time. I didn't have time to totally rebuild the rear end, and the transmission I don't know who bought it. They should have fired the person. What they should have done is they should have took a mechanic whenever they were going over. They got these cars from all over the country, probably at auctions. And I'm sure the person buying them didn't know anything. Just looked at it and said, oh, that's a cool looking car, and bought them. But they lost their ass on it. They never made a dime on the program. It was more a PR stunt, really, because they used a lot of the cars in some of the brochures, pictures of them, and that was about it. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. I got to work on all the old cars, and that's all I had to do when I was on that program until I left in '89. I ended up going to the Mouse House then, and that was it. But that was good times there, working there at National. We had a lot of good times. I really missed that company. The people, there was like one big happy family. And the fleet in Orlando was always around 5,000 cars. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. The fleet would vary, but usually 5,000 cars. And 16 mechanics to keep them going. But, most of them were brand new or 1 year old maybe. Except for this one time when they had this classic car rental program. But anyway, they were $100 a day to rent them. At the time, you could rent a brand new Cadillac for about 32 or 38 bucks. Anyway, my 10 minutes is up. Thought you might like that story. See you next time.